Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Platform Enterprise, the podcast for people who are pissed off with capitalism. I'm your host, Rachel Donald, and I'm a journalist working at the intersection of media and activism. You can find my most recent work over at www.platformenterprise.com, where you can also subscribe to get my newsletter and this podcast delivered straight to your inbox every week. On the show today is a very special guest, Trinity Heavenz. And this conversation is quite unlike many of the other conversations that I have on this podcast. Trinity is a Ugandan entrepreneur, and he got into business essentially after having lived on the streets as a child in Uganda and running with a gang. And incredibly, his business now employs over 20 people. People who need employment, his friends, people he's also taken off the street to help. And he has successfully trained 750 people to go off and, freelance and sort of gain their own empowerment and autonomy. This is just an amazing conversation. It was really one of my favorites. We spoke a lot about the economy in African countries, the future of Uganda, and Western perceptions about what's going on in this continent. Is China really a threat to African people? Is it a new form of colonization? Before us Westerner anti-capitalist people get ahead of ourselves and think that, big business is bad and everything needs to change, Trinity would argue that, well, first of all, people need to eat. And hearing it come from somebody who knows firsthand what business can do to change your life was really quite something. I think this is a very special episode of Platform Enterprise, and I know that you guys will get as much out of it as I did. Normally I don't do an intro this long. I'm like freewheeling here because I was just so impressed speaking to Trinity. So if you're also impressed, please leave the show a 5-star rating. And a comment and share it far and wide. Also, if you're looking for graphic designers or web designers or anything like this, do not hesitate to check out Trinity's website at www.era92.com. Tell me, you went from living on the streets to having access to a computer and learning these digital skills and now being head of a company that employs 25 people. So let's go back. I mean, what was that moment? You went on the streets because your mother was a single mother and couldn't afford your education. So tell me about the moment that you had access to an opportunity and just seized it.
Yeah, that moment was actually down. I was really down. This was a time when one of our gang member, a guy called Godi, who was leading us to go and steal the community, was actually killed. So when he was killed, on that day, I remember very well, the people in the community who saw us running told us, "You guys are the next, and we are gonna hunt you." So for me, when they told me that thing, I went hiding, really under a ditch. And we have so many trenches in this community, so I went under one trench and I was hiding so that I don't lose my life. But in this downtime, when I was starting to get sick, angry for 2 3 days, that's when a mission group from Northern Ireland was visiting our community. And this was a group of 20 people who had come to see if they can build a school for this slum community because of the problem of many kids who are street children. So when the pastor that time who was leading this group recognized me, I said, "I know these boys. They come at my church and get some porridge some days, but they cannot settle. They always come, but they always find ways of going back to the streets." That's a general problem for young street children in Uganda. They never settle. So when they asked us, they made sure that they give us something that makes us not go back to the streets. So on that day, a lady called Roberta Wilkin asked me and my friend, and they asked me, "What can we give you that you don't go back to the streets?" So for me, while on the streets, one thing that I wanted to steal or find a way to steal was a computer. And I told these guys that if you give me a computer, I'll never go back to the streets. And that's when these guys really acted so fast. My friend asked for music instruments, for me asked for a computer, and the next day they took us to a shop and they bought us these machines. I got a MacBook, and that's the computer that opened up the whole new world of possibilities for me, because I was a creative guy, I was an artist guy, and I wanted to take my art to the next level. So I started training myself to design websites, logos, graphic designing, and that whole process really led me leave the streets for good, because I had gotten a purpose, I had gotten an opportunity to exercise my dreams and passions.
Wow. I mean, that's unreal. Wow.
Mm.
So you were running with a gang, you were living on the streets,
Yeah,
and a pastor visited from Northern Ireland.
yeah,
And you said, "Yeah, all right, give me a computer and I won't go back."
yeah.
But it's also amazing that you kind of that you like knew that about yourself even at
Mm,
that moment.
mm,
You know, you knew that if you were given an opportunity, you would take it.
mm.
Do you think that that's the same for a lot of street children in Uganda?
I would say from the things that I've done, at least for many young people. So the reason why I
Mm,
actually started a company, that was one day when I was discovered. I was discovered through a promotion from a community, because they bring promotions to young people in the communities in the slums, so that they can showcase their talents. So for me, on this event, I was discovered as a young talented graphic designers, and I got an
mm,
opportunity to intern with the Coca-Cola company that was designing their ad campaigns that time. So when I got that opportunity, I left the slums, I got a job, and my life was completely different. So
yeah.
the reason why I want to answer your question with this story is because when I left, for me to start the company, I didn't know anything about entrepreneurship. I didn't know anything about this entire journey. But on that day, when I went back to the slums, one of the girls who was my friend, she's called Megan. Megan was at a verge of actually selling her body, because her dad had broken his backbone while building, and this girl was under a family of 6 people, and now she had to take care of her siblings. And so Megan came to me one day and she told me, Trinity, my friends are telling me that for me to feed my family or to feed my siblings, I have to go and sell my body, but I don't want to do it. But if I get a skill like you did, I would not go do this. So on that day, I told Megan, you know what? I'm gonna pay you and I train you the things I know. When you do these things in a period of 4 months, I'll definitely give you a job. I'll quit my job and we start a company. So I started with Megan and the other 3 girls and I started training them. But surprisingly enough, after 4 months into the training, Megan was able to design a website on her own. And when she did, that taught me something, that you know what? Brilliance is equally distributed, but opportunity is not. So there's so many young people who are brilliant, but they are not exposed and they don't have access to this kind of opportunities. And so many of them are so hungry. So right now, Megan is leading a team of 4 other developers, and she's still with us even up to date.
Oh my God, wow. So the company was born out of an impulse to help a friend,
Yeah,
and then you saw that there was a format that you could apply to lots and lots of other youths who needed help.
I realized we had invented a seed and we just had to plant it many, many, many times. And so that's what we've been doing over the years.
Okay. So so you're now employing 25 people. How many young people have you trained?
750.
Wow, 750. And were they all street children, or did they come from a range of backgrounds?
Yeah, one of the things, I think I would say the first 3 years it was really core street children, and gang people, young people who are on the streets, young people who are out of school, girls who are hungry for success. So, but over the years, now I would say that the problem we are having in Uganda or in the slums where I come from, actually I realize that are the problems that we find everywhere. So why am I saying this? Right now, Uganda, 80% of our population is young people. When you look at the
Wow.
landscape of Africa, almost 68% are young people, and that number is growing at a faster rate than any other continent in the world. So what we see is that um, our work is transcending only the slum children. It's now the young people of Africa, that really need
Mm.
these skills and talents to be built so that they can really benefit the community, their communities, their lives, and also they benefit from this growing continent, because the rate at which the continent is growing is not trickling down to the skill sets and abilities so that these young people can actually benefit from it. Many young people will stay unemployed for many years if we do not give them the skills and the opportunities they need to exercise their talents and become professionals.
So, what's going on with the education system then in Uganda? Why are these young people not being taught these skills by educational institutions?
Yeah, first of all, education is expensive, but more importantly, it's broken.
Mm.
Why am I saying this? Is that for me, I when I trained myself, I thought that education was still the key. So I went back to the university to train and become a professional. Unfortunately, I quit after 3 semesters because I realized that the education system was actually taking away my time and not giving me the rightful skills I needed. They are still in the theory part of things, yet the world as the future of work and the future of learning has definitely being disrupted by technology and the way education has to be taught. For Uganda, we are still in the 1960s. So I see even right now, many graduates from the university can't find jobs. They can't use computers. They cannot express themselves. So for me, I see Elevate, our program, our academy, as an alternative to all of these kind of things. And so it's gonna be enabling us to give young people the skills that are gonna enable them to take advantage for the rapid changing future of work.
Right. Okay. And who do these young people typically work for? Is it for Ugandan companies that are looking for artists and designers, or is it
Mm.
companies abroad?
Yeah, definitely. We have our model is diverse. We have
Mm.
we employ first of all the best students are employed by Era 92, but then we have
Right.
employment partners, and we have a range of them right now, starting from the big banks in Uganda, organizations who come and give our students a paid internship for 1 year so that they can strengthen their skills. But 90% of the young people that are being placed are being employed, given permanent employment. And so that has really, really
Wow.
worked out well for us.
Wow, that's amazing. And it is and you kind of keep it local, you keep it national because I think theoretically one of the problems with digital skills
Mm,
is that foreign companies can take advantage of people that would work for a lower rate because of the currency difference. And it never leads to any kind of, how do I put this, like
mm,
national emancipation.
mm,
But what you're doing is you're giving these young people these skills and then they're going out and putting it into the local and national economy.
mm.
Do I understand correctly?
Yeah. You've
Yeah.
got it right, and that's why I said our model is diverse. We strengthen our ecosystem because once the talent in the ecosystem is strong, then that means young people can build companies. Those
Yeah.
freelancers can go on and start companies. So we want that energy to be fueled into our ecosystem. But more importantly, to note out that we also take advantage of that kind of thing you've mentioned, because right now at least 90%, 70% of our clients are coming from the US and the UK who give us work. So we are also
Okay.
building up the ones that we employ actually work on clients more outside the world, but then the employment partnerships is local.
Right. Okay. But with Era 92, with your own creative agency,
Mm,
you're sourcing a lot of work from outside of Uganda.
yes, sir.
And how did you start building those relationships?
Yeah, I started with my sponsor actually. The lady who sponsored me, after 5 6 years, I went out and mentioned to her, you know what? I do remember when you come to Uganda. Yeah, when you give me a computer. Right now, I'm having a creative agent that is giving the opportunity to give me to other young people. So when I mentioned them to that, they invited me to one event in Northern Ireland as a success story. And so when I went there, I started building the network. I started talking to people, and through word of mouth, it spread from Northern Ireland to the US, Netherlands, and we are continuing to grow. And right now, the organization that really spotted us from the slums are right now our biggest clients, because they are on a retainer with us on a monthly basis, and we are continuing to further our mission to serve
Oh,
them.
that's
Yeah,
fantastic.
yeah.
Yeah. And what do you hope Era 92 could become in the future?
Oh, that is amazing. That's a good one. Yeah, I would say um we definitely want to become a global company, and
Mm,
we want to scale. In the next 5 years, we want to scale at least to five other countries in Africa, because one of
mm,
the we want to scale our impact to other African countries, because our problems are the same. I've traveled to at least six countries in Africa, and the problem of young people and the problem of youth unemployment rises at the top. And so we want to be able to continue to pioneer those solutions through technology, digital, and arts, so that we can empower enough young people into that future careers. But more importantly, we want to scale our operations to countries where we are hoping to get more work and funding. Countries like US and the UK.
mm.
So we are already registered in the UK right now, and we continue to want to have a strong, strong grounds in these countries, because that's where we hope to get, enough capital to fuel into the mission we are doing. But thirdly, the reason and why I started this company is for us to be like a model that people who have their companies can use them to actually create jobs, because for us in Africa right now we need jobs. So if you have a company that can give young people skills, we want to be that model that people can take as an example to replicate through their businesses, so that we can combat this problem of youth unemployment across Africa.
Right. Okay. So you see it as an opportunity for everybody
Yeah.
to address the problem and tackle it. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I have seen in Europe
Mm,
a sort of similar thing with companies training refugees
mm,
actually in digital skills for
mm,
free,
mm,
and then either placing them in employment and taking a portion of their pay, or I don't know, giving them a sort of internship. Like there's some way in which it kind of supposedly balances out financially.
mm,
Um, but it's I think it's such an important conversation because I think certainly in the West we sort of take our digital skills for granted.
mm-hmm.
Even what we were talking about before we started recording, the fact that you said, the Ugandan government just turned the internet off
Yeah.
in your country.
Yeah.
And over here, that's an impossible notion. I mean,
Mm,
first of all, because it's been privatized.
yeah. 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 That's a blessing to
But
you guys.
yeah, yeah. Well, it's funny hearing this, Trinity, because I think certainly the kind of theoretical conversations happening in the West right now are sort of very wary of like the culture that's come out of the Industrial Revolution,
Mm,
wary of people being sort of wage slaves or globalization, all of these kinds of things.
mm,
Like that's where the conversation is heading now here. In fact, is it good? Is growth good? Is
mm,
globalization good?
mm,
Um, and yet, when you put it into practice in countries like Uganda or Ethiopia or Kenya, it's beyond theory. It's the practicality of, well, people need to eat and they
mm,
need employment and they need help and they need opportunity, and how do we give them to it?
mm.
So
Wow.
I'm really, really grateful to have you on the show today to discuss all of that.
Yeah.
I actually saw that you attended an Industrial Revolution event
Mm,
not long ago.
yeah. I,
Yeah, can you can you tell me a little bit about that?
um, Yeah, I think for me, I wasn't into the whole entire thing, but I was just there to really, get to learn about these things of the technology revolution, definitely, because we've we've realized that right now the technology is rapidly changing the future of work around the globe. And the reason why I was part of that thing is because Africa now is in the early stages of the technology
Mm.
revolution, characterized by the widespread of use of mobile technology. Here we share money through uh, our mobile. You send me text and I get money. So that thing is really changing the nature of work on the continent and creating great opportunities for workers to be connected to the economy and each other. So that that thing was really there was so many insights on how you guys in the West have really taken a huge leap, and actually Africa is way behind. So, but we are coping up. So it was a great event. Were you part of it?
No, I just when I was researching Era 92, I
Yeah,
saw that you'd attended it.
yeah,
Uh, so
mm,
it's just it's interesting because like the industrial revolution is
mm,
kind of like a term that is a little bit loaded now in the
yeah,
West
yeah,
because we think, oh fuck, climate change.
yeah, yeah,
Climate change and exploitation and labor, we tend to wonder how good the industrial revolution actually was.
was, yeah, yeah. But I think in that time it was needed. But then the technology hadn't matured enough to
Mm,
invent things like renewable energy, green
mm,
energy. So and maybe the people who are leaders in that time, or people who are like our inventors, they hadn't really figured it out. And maybe that would have a different story. But I would say that we human beings will given a huge potential to turn our world around, and God
mm.
placed us into this thing because we know we can take control of it. So we can really act up. Soon the industrial revolution has really made a huge, you know, um, effect on our planet. But
Mm.
it's not too late for us to do what we can, so to save our planet. So it's an interesting kind of conversation.
Yeah, it's an interesting debate, but then I guess also what could be fascinating, and I think what the West doesn't often think about,
Mm,
is if a continent like Africa
mm,
was to fully go through its industrial revolution, but
mm.
also with the awareness of what other countries have done wrong,
Mm.
well, then you could be striking out.
Yeah,
You
we'll
could be
get
the
it.
model
We'll,
of how to, yeah,
yeah.
how to be a just and safe and renewable, developed
Do you know the
nation and
interesting
people.
thing? Do you know the interesting thing? The flow of technology, the flow of information is so fast right now around the continent. So at least when something happens in your country or in the West, it's easy replicated in Africa. So I think
Yeah.
Africa has a huge advantage for it to have a leap over all the mistakes that the West did into through their industrial revolution, and we see that happening through battery. We are always finding ways of you know creating power in Uganda through waste, and so the innovation is really happening around what we are doing. So we're in a good position, and we with the help of the West, I think we can definitely overcome that.
Yeah, that's really 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 interesting.
Mm.
And I think people don't consider it like because technology has come so far and because we're all so connected
Yeah.
and because we're all very conscious of kind of what other countries are doing,
Yes.
you know, Africa or a nation like India could kind of take the technology that's now available, skip a
Mm.
couple of decades, go,
Mm-hmm.
hey, politically, we're not going to do that because it didn't work
Mm.
out for you guys.
Yeah.
And, bang, you're the future.
I knew the future. Yeah. But yeah, what is gonna happen, for all that things to happen, the
Mm,
the people I hear people say Africa is the next big thing. Yes, it sounds great. It sounds optimistic, but I'm on the continent and I see there is a lot of
yeah.
things that we have to do for us to achieve that. And one of the things is to actually empower and equip our young people, because when you
Yeah.
look at those countries that have taken a leap to become big or global powerhouse like China, India, you see that they've done something with their labor force.
Yeah.
Why are many people outsourcing from India? Because they pumped their education, and they made sure many young people knew how to design software or software engineering. They knew that in China they have a population. If this population is can do work, many companies are going to bring work to their countries. And over the
Mm.
years, that thing has actually benefited their continent or countries. How? Because if Apple brings their center in China, they're gonna people are gonna learn how to do these things, and in 10 years China will make a phone. And that's what is not happening in Africa, and that's why I'm advocating for.
Yeah, right. So for education,
Yes.
so that people get the skills in order to then work nationally to create a future.
Yeah.
The other thing is like geopolitically
Mm,
in this globalized world,
mm,
what we have seen also is the West and companies in the West
mm,
taking advantage of labor forces around the world.
mm,
So the living conditions might be better,
mm,
but it's not necessarily emancipation.
mm-hmm,
It's like having a higher quality of life, but having somebody who's in charge on the other side of the world,
mm,
and therefore like opportunities limited.
mm,
So how? I mean, this might be a way too big a question to ask
mm,
one single person, but
yeah.
how can we combat that when
Mm.
looking at the potential for Africa for its own revolution? How can we ensure that people remain empowered as opposed to cheap labor?
Yeah, I would say that I've been there. I've been through that thing. But I would
Mm,
say that I wouldn't really have a bigger issue of it, because one of the thing is that it the current state where we are right now, there is no high living expenses like it is in the UK, in the US. So
mhm,
I would urge that if you're not paying someone $1 to do your work, but you're paying them $8 per hour, it's a good thing, in Africa. So I wouldn't put a pain or a gun on your neck to say, oh, you have to pay these people $21. But
mm,
when it comes to skill set development, the reason why it is happening in India right now, their labor is expensive, but we have to start somewhere. So for
yeah.
us to even start with getting that work from the West, it's been hard for you to say, oh, my website is going to be done in Africa, or my app is going to be designed in Africa. We haven't actually broken that barrier. So I would say that we have to provide a smooth entry into that global market. But as we grow, of course, as the economy and the economies grow, the labor in Abuja, Nigeria, is not the labor in Kenya, Nairobi. So we've seen some of the continents actually become, or countries become actually expensive. So I would say that it's gonna be automatic that a country if Kampala grows fast, its labor and living expenses, people will need to earn more, and as they earn more, they will need to ask for more money, and
Mm.
that's what happened to the US. Maybe that even way years back, some people were earning maybe $5 per hour, but as the living expenses grow, companies had to pay people more.
Yeah, and but also, the problem is inflation.
Yeah.
Wages stagnate
Yeah.
and life gets more expensive. I mean, the US just voted to reject a bill that would have increased the minimum living wage
Mm,
to just $15 an hour,
wow.
which is nothing actually,
Mm.
given the expense of living in so many places in the United States. So
Yeah.
it's not always a given that if if life gets more expensive, then wages will get expensive. I mean, as a millennial in
Yeah,
Europe,
yeah.
me and my mates, like, we can't afford to buy homes.
Wow.
We
Yeah.
can't afford,
But I ge-
like, so many of us are living at home
mm,
because our wages do not reflect
yeah.
the actual cost of living.
Do you know what needs to happen? I think we need to. This is just funny. Anyways, I don't know if it's okay. I think people should. The technology, like COVID-19 shifted the paradigm
Yeah.
of work. I think people are living, even like in New York, an apartment, studio apartment is $2,500. Now
Yeah.
people will be able now to go and live in New Mexico, deep down there, and be able to reduce on the costs. And I don't know, but it's true. I see that, but also maybe some should come to Africa.
See, yeah, I really think that, like, like the whole, like, globalization is a bad thing. It's like, hang on.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
huge companies, being really, really powerful sort of
yeah,
entities.
mm,
That's bad. But,
yeah,
like, people's ability to travel
mm,
and to be a part of another culture, like,
mm,
if it's true, like, if everybody just left New York
mm-hmm.
and went, nah, I'm gonna
Yes,
go to I'm gonna go to Uganda, and I'm gonna
yeah,
live off of a couple $100s a month, and fuck
yeah,
all you, sorry, excuse my language,
no
but,
problem.
like, screw this.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
It's true, there's a real power in, like,
mm,
people's ability to move and
yeah,
just say, no, this isn't good enough
yeah,
anymore, I
yeah,
don't have to be here
yeah.
anymore.
And
Yeah.
if your company can allow you to work remotely, boom, you can still
Yeah.
get your $60,000 a year, and then you're living in Ghana, and you're gonna be living on $20,000, a good life. So I think
Yeah.
it maybe other countries, some people, I know a friend of mine who is in Romania and is from the US, and the costs there are a little bit low. And sometimes it even helps the people who are starting up with low wages, so that you can save up
Mm.
money and do other things. So
Mm.
yeah, we just have to find a different way of thinking about things, but the opportunities are enormous.
Mm. Yeah, definitely. Well, do you think it would be like a good thing for Uganda to see that influx of people coming to live and to work, whether remotely or or locally?
Yeah, the biggest number of people we have here are people who come and start people who are from NGOs who are volunteers. But we've seen many people who stay here for 2 3 years, and they
Mm.
like it. And yeah, but I think right now there is a friend of ours who's coming to live here for 2 years, from Netherlands. And because of that, and says, for me, I'm running a digital company. I don't
Mm-hmm.
meet most of my friends. I'm gonna come and be there for 2 years, and so we are open, And when you look at so many countries right now in Africa being marketed like that, like Rwanda, Ghana, is welcoming even like black people to come back home and build businesses here. So
Mm.
uh, yeah, it will also help, the economies across, and then there will be a balance of distribution of wealth across the world.
Oh, here's hoping.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God, here's hoping.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw recently, there was a massive vote, I can't remember where, and essentially, like, all of the Western countries
Mm,
voted to not allow developing nations access to the COVID vaccine.
mm.
Um, so still
Yeah.
not convinced that distribution of wealth is anybody's
Yeah.
priority.
It's not. It's not. That's why as Africa we have to build our economies fast enough.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, it's
Yeah.
happening. It's happening. People in Africa really have a lot of money. But what is not happening is that still the way the West is having a picture about us, have this
Mm.
organization called the New Africa. And what we are talking about is just the West should just change the way we think about Africa, because most of the things that they think that, okay, we need to help people in Africa. But if you just twist that question to say, how can we tap into this untapped potential? How can we tap into this untapped market? How can we bring businesses in Africa, on the continent, rather than all way aid and loans and stuff like that? So it's it's a disturbing thing, but I also recommend that all our fellow people on the continent should work hard for the growth of the continent, because once we can do that, at least we can be able to compete on a global market, because we don't have a lot of things to offer yet. We don't have the high skilled labor market to on the market. We don't have high products. So if there is a lot of opportunities for people to build those products that we can take on the global market.
All right. You know, in the West, like I think, yeah, I think people really, really, really don't understand what's going on
Mm,
in Africa as a continent. And even the fact that such a huge place is
mm,
always just sort of called Africa,
yeah,
um, just completely homogenizes
yeah,
the peoples and the cultures.
mm,
But certainly one thing that people are talking about in recent years is like, oh, you know, China. China's
mm,
going in and
yeah,
China is investing in Africa, and that's really dangerous because they're
mm,
buying.
yeah,
They're
yeah,
buying the
yes,
labor and they're buying the people, and they're taking advantage
mm,
of Africans.
mm,
And that's the message that we have.
mm.
Is that true, or are they doing exactly as you say, like tapping into that unchecked potential?
I don't think China is tapping into the untapped potential. Actually, the problem is two-way. We have the problem of our leaders, and also the problem of people who want to take advantage of Africa. So, and that's why that's the only problem that is holding Africa from its breakthrough. Because if the leaders we had today love their countries hard enough, so much enough, they wouldn't allow to sell off a part of a leg to
Yeah,
China for them to do their own things there. They wouldn't allowing a lot of debt, so that China can come and build an entire road for us, and
yeah,
they are taking for them, they are trading. So okay, you give us this, give us land, and we build a road. Some of the deals are like that. So I don't think that
yeah,
is benefiting us, and it's not trickling down to the real people. It's not going down to this young. I don't know how anything that China does in Uganda right now benefits me as a person. You know, I
yeah,
see they're buying off a lake shore, or but what does that do? They're fishing. They're now taking the fish. You see, that's the kind of things. When we discovered gold, and a foreign company came and they did the thing, but the money we didn't see it coming. So that's why we
yeah.
we also promote young people in the private sector to be strong enough across Africa, because those are the only companies that their impact reaches the person on the lower spectrum.
Yeah, I mean, you know, that's sort of the thing and the problem. You
Mm,
know, Africa is. You said, you know, Africa is behind the West.
yeah,
Well, that's because it was absolutely abused
yeah,
by the West
mm,
for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years, and
mm,
even you know, even just in recent history, just as you say, like just taking resources,
mm-hmm,
taking gold, buying land, you
mm,
know, and
mm,
not doing anything to benefit the people.
mm,
So I think I'm starting to get a very clear picture of what you want to achieve, and that is a kind of realistic awareness of the market, of the global market,
mm,
and create a labor force that is strong enough
mm,
in Uganda and on the continent of Africa
mm,
to A, pull young people out of poverty and give them opportunity, and
mm.
B, start to develop the nation from the ground up.
For the
And that
grassroots.
also means
Mm,
having, yeah, grassroots, and that
mm,
also means having a private sector, a local and
mm,
national private
mm.
sector that's strong enough that you don't have to take you're not forced into bad deals
Yeah,
with bigger or more powerful companies or nations who just want to take advantage.
you've nailed it. That's
That's it.
100% of what we want to see. And for me, I always tell my people is that in Uganda alone, I see if we can create a million trinities, just a million trinities, who can employ 20 to 30 young people. Do the
Yeah.
math. Do at least 15 million jobs. And if we get 15 million jobs on a population of 48 million, that's a big leap on our problem of youth unemployment, which is at 87% of our young people. So I would that's my dream, that's my passion, that is. And even those people who are in the West who have the clean heart of doing something in Africa, they should see how does this benefit the household. You just think, can this money reach to the household of a poor family in Uganda? If you if
Yeah.
your work can't do that, then that means you're enabling the richer to get richer.
Yeah, it actually needs to go to a diverse
Yeah,
part of the population rather than just being centered around God,
yeah.
the same people.
Mm,
Um, what do you think? Okay, let's fast forward 10 years and you've done it.
mm,
Youth unemployment is at a new low. The private sector is bubbling in Uganda.
mm,
What do you think would need to change politically for those changes to really take root? Do you think like a population that has employment and has access to computers and has digital skills
mm.
would also then become more aware of the political problems that they face and the
Yeah,
fact that they have a choice with their vote?
yeah, you've got it right. The only reason why even our leaders in Africa, the trick they had is keep them poor, because you can control the poor. The problem we've been the continuous unrest you hear are people that actually know their rights and have a right to vote. They have some money, they have bad roads, and say I pay
Yeah.
tax but I have bad roads. I pay tax but the so if you have a population that has that buying power, purchasing power, it's difficult to
Mm.
rule them. You'll continue to have unrest. But more importantly, we see that generation of people who can get the opportunity of this global gig economy and online things. But besides that, we also a movement of rising leaders, young patriotic leaders
Mm.
who are coming from the grassroots into this power, and if that happens, the decision making will change, and they will have their communities. For me right now, if I ever get power into into power, one of the things that I'm really tired of is the roads and the healthcare system in Africa.
Mm.
These are things that we should be able to do on our own with the VAT and the
Mm.
taxes we pay. So it's also gonna come from what we can do right now. We can't change the leaders unless we fight and go back 10 years ago. What we can do is, as young people, we can focus on the circle of influence. What can we influence? I can influence myself and become a software engineer and get a job online working with a company in the UK. That is possible. So what we can do, what we don't want to do is that we are not going to sit back and do nothing. Where we are as young people, we want to make sure we have the tools, the skills, and the tools we need for us to take advantage of this global economy.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. It's such a pragmatic, like step by step formula you've laid
Yes.
out, Trinity.
Mm,
Yeah, you really put all the pieces together.
mm,
Can I ask, out of interest, how much tax? Like, what are the tax bands in
mm.
Uganda?
The tax band?
Yeah, like how much tax on average do
Oh
people
yeah,
pay?
that's crazy. So for you, if you're bringing up oh man, like the taxes are crazy. Like if you if you're bringing in goods from the UK or the US, man,
Yeah.
it's now for the rich people. You're gonna pay at least 30% of what you bring. For me to buy a car,
Okay.
I can buy a car in Japan for $2,000, and when I come here, I pay at least twice of that in tax.
Oh.
So it's all ruled by the government and all these, greedy people wanna take advantage of the population. But
Hmm.
for me right now, I strongly believe Africa, Africa with its workforce and what we are doing, we can go far, in terms of what we can do. But then the problem of the leaders also is a challenge, and then the problem of how we are seen on the global market is affecting
Yeah.
us big time. Yeah.
Okay. Can I ask, what would you hope that Africa would do differently in
Mm,
its revolution that
mm,
maybe the West did wrong?
mm. That's a great question. The West has done wrong in the terms of economy, in terms of Such.
whatever.
Mm,
Whatever you think,
yeah.
kind of.
I've seen it. I've
Uh-huh.
seen it. I've seen it. I would say I see the that kind of manipulation that the West
Mm-hmm.
did into their growth. That when they came to Congo and they realized these assets, they made war happening in those countries. So it's
Yeah.
actually happening with African countries as we are growing. That
Yeah.
some people, when they say, okay, there is oil in this region, the people in that region are going to suffer because they're
Mm.
going to bring chaos. There's no, there won't be growth. We've seen it in actually Uganda also. That all the places that where we're getting all this gold and fuel, the places are not developed. I would urge that if we Africans recognize potential valuable mineral or gold or anything that would benefit our things, we shouldn't be greedy. We shouldn't just take it off and run and then come back give aid. But we should just use that mineral to employ the people in that community, to build roads in that community so that the people in that place would definitely benefit hugely from what has been blessed to them in their land. So for me, that's one thing I see the West has done wrong in terms of their development. They took a lot.
Yeah.
Mm.
That's you're preaching a kind of a sort of non-violence there and an
Yeah,
awareness
yeah,
that we're really all in it together,
yeah,
you know.
yeah,
And it's true, the model of kind of stealing and then
yes,
coming back and giving aid
yeah.
is just a perpetual cycle of poverty.
Yes, it is
Um,
happening here. That like the government realizes, okay, there is thing here. They go disorganize the community, and then they say, okay, we have some food for you. And they go give them food, you know. But
yeah.
just imagine if the factories are there, people can get jobs from that. How people would, how I imagine those people being proud of what they found in their land and how they, I just imagine that kind of thing, I feel pity for Congo, is that the richest country in the world, that people are not, they don't have the freedom. That would be the best place to be if you want to, I don't know, I'm just so passionate about, that. But
Mm.
it's the powers of economies that the power can really corrupt, absolutely. So
Yeah. Yeah. Yes, and nobody has an answer for that yet.
nobody, yeah,
Why does
nobody,
power corrupt and how
yeah,
to avoid it?
yeah. We haven't found that formula.
Nope, 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 nope.
Yeah.
I think one of the ways to do it would be like to pay politicians
Mm.
what we pay nurses.
Yeah, a lot of money.
No.
No, the nurses are paid little.
Oh, in the yeah.
Yeah,
Certainly
yeah,
in Europe it's
even in
this.
Uganda, yeah, yeah. I
Yeah,
think, yeah,
we do.
here guys are
Mhm.
paid a lot of money. Cars, a car that would build a
Mm.
road, man, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Trinity, this has been amazing.
thank
This
you.
has been so enlightening and inspiring. Your
Mm,
story. Oh
mm,
my god.
mm.
To finish up, is there somebody that you would like to platform? Somebody that you think I should go and speak to and have on the podcast to kind of continue this conversation?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I can recommend you. Should I do it via email or what?
No, tell me here, and then
Okay.
we'll talk on email.
What in terms of what message? Is it still the New Africa or
It's up
uh
to you. It's totally up
uh
to you.
whom do you want to talk from Africa or from Europe or other side?
I mean, again, up to you. Just
Okay.
is there somebody that you think it would be worth having on the show to maybe talk more about the things that we've been discussing,
Mm.
or just somebody who's doing amazing work that you think needs attention?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna connect you to Roger, and yeah, he's a like my business partner, but he's also running his own company, and
Mm.
is a guy that now will nail down on what we really need to do moving forward in terms of building this ecosystem across Africa. He's a strategist, an advocate, and is a business developer.
Amazing.
Mm,
Oh, yeah, I'd love to speak to him.
yeah,
Trinity, you have been fantastic. Thank you so much.
you're welcome.
And good luck with Era 92. I mean, I don't think you need luck. Like, you've really figured it out and you're doing brilliantly.
Yeah.
And I will advise everybody to go and see what Africa has to offer.
Amen. Amen. Yeah,
Yeah,
we are
amen.
looking forward to having them here. And if you're there and you want to do some change in Africa, you can reach out to us, but also just change the way you think about Africa. There is a lot of potential here. Bring investments, bring your skills, connect young people to work, and do whatever you do so that someone is being lifted out of poverty, someone is being empowered to take on the course of their life. We want to see that happen.
Wonderful. Thank you, Trinity.
You're welcome, and we keep in touch.
Yes, absolutely. Hello again, everyone. I so hope you enjoyed that. As I said at the beginning, if you're looking for graphic designers, for web designers, for a whole myriad of digital skills, please check out Trinity's website. Check out Trinity's company at www.era92.com. Believe you me, it's money well spent. Also, don't forget to leave the show 5 stars, please, and subscribe to Platform Enterprise over at www.platformenterprise.com, where you'll get this podcast and my weekly newsletter delivered to your inbox twice a week. All right, everyone, thank you so much for your support. See you next week.